Part 17. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 161. Chapter 161 Finished the bowl of dog food silently. No, I can do it myself. Song Tingzi picked up the tissue on the table expressionlessly and gently wiped the water stains on his shirt. Lucien raised his eyebrows at Luning. Look, I said he can do it himself. Childish, Luning rolled her eyes at the other party angrily, then looked at Jian Nian and said, Nian Nian, have you finished eating? Jian Nian glanced at Song Tingzi next to him and wanted to say that he hadn't eaten well, but there was not much food left on the plate in front of him, and he didn't want to leave the impression that he was a good eater to the male god, so Jian Nian had to put down his chopsticks regretfully and said, I've eaten. Luning, then let's go. After saying that, he glanced at Song Tingzi again apologetically. I don't know if it can be washed off. If it can't be washed off, I'll give you another one. She drank a drink, which was colored. Although the other party wiped it dry, the mark could still be seen very clearly. No need, Song Tingzi said, I'll give it to Aunt Zhang to wash it after I get back. These are food colorings and should be able to be washed off. Even though the other party said this, Luning still planned to choose another piece of clothing to compensate the other party later. She knew that Song Tingzi had a misophobia, and he would probably never wear this dress again even if it was washed. On the way out of the cafeteria and back to the classroom, Luning clearly felt that Lucien was in mood. What are you making a fuss about again? Luning raised her eyes and glanced at the other party. Lucien turned around and looked at her secretly. You actually want to give that pretty boy clothes? We have known each other for so long and you have never given me a piece of clothes. Luning twitched the corner of her mouth and said, Lucien, please be reasonable. I soiled other people's clothes. Can I compensate them? Why did she think this guy was getting more and more childish? He actually has to care about this kind of thing. Lucien snorted coldly and said, I don't care, you have to give it to me as well. What's more, they have already said that it can be washed off, so I think you don't have to pay for it. Luning was too lazy to reason with him. Okay, I'll give it to you. However, she could still afford to give him a piece of clothing. It just so happened that this guy's birthday was coming soon, so I thought it was a birthday gift for him. Lucien was finally satisfied. He raised his eyebrows at her and said, Then when will we go? Luning glanced at the other person. Are you in such a hurry? For those who didn't know, she thought he was in urgent need of clothes. Lucien, yes, there must be. Does he lack clothes? What he lacks is given by this girl. I know. Can I go with you this weekend? Since I said I would compensate the other party, naturally the sooner the better. Okay, it's settled. Lucien was finally satisfied. Jian Nian looked at the two of them and finished the bowl of dog food in silence. The weekend came in a blink of an eye, and Luning was woken up by Lucien's phone call early in the morning. I read a little late last night. I had planned to sleep a little longer in the morning, but I was woken up unexpectedly. Luning was angry when she got up. She gritted her teeth and said to the person on the other end of the phone, Lucien, are you sick? As soon as Lucien heard the girl's voice, he knew that the girl had been woken up by him, and he couldn't help but feel guilty. Last night, he thought that he would go pick out clothes with the girl today, so he went to bed early on purpose. When he woke up, he called her as soon as possible, but he ignored the fact that the girl might not wake up yet. You said you would accompany me to buy clothes today, have you forgotten? Hurry, we will meet at the entrance of the mall in an hour, and I will treat you to breakfast. After saying that, he hung up the phone. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 162. Chapter 162 Do you want me to leave? After the call ended, Luning took a look at the time and found that it wasn't even 8 o'clock yet. Normally at this time on weekends, the other party would have to use the loudspeaker to wake me up, and today I don't know what medicine I took wrongly. What's more, an hour later, the mall hasn't even opened yet. I don't know why I went there so early. But even after she woke up, she couldn't go back to sleep and had to get up and get dressed. When he got downstairs, he happened to meet Song Tingzi having breakfast. Thinking that he wanted to give him clothes, he asked, "Are you free today? Do you want to go shopping together?" Song Tingzi glanced at her in surprise. He was a little surprised that the other party suddenly asked him out. He happened to have almost eaten, so he picked up a tissue and wiped his mouth and said, "Okay." When Lu Ning rushed to the place she had arranged with Lucian, the guy had already arrived. Her face, which was originally smiling, froze when she saw Song Ting behind her, and her face turned completely dark. In front of the latter, he pulled Lu Ning aside and said, "Didn't you agree to buy me clothes? Why did you bring him here? Please, I want to pay for his clothes and I'll just buy them for you," Lu Ning corrected him. "So he is here to serve as a foil to that guy?" Lucian laughed angrily, "I am the one who is superfluous. How about I leave? Anyway, you both want to buy, and you are both boys, and your favorite styles should be similar, so why can't we go together?" she thought more simply. Since she is buying clothes, it would be better to be there in person. After all, she still has something she likes. Only I know the style best. Lucian gritted his teeth and said, "Sister, do you want to make me angry to death on purpose? Is this a question of whether we should be together or not?" It's because this girl didn't take him to heart at all. Lu Ning didn't expect his reaction to be so big, so she sighed silently in her heart, then tugged on his sleeves and said to him softly, "Stop being stingy, why don't we just go shopping together? Could it be that you want me to finish shopping with you and then ask him to buy it alone? Why do you have to split the problem twice when it can be solved in one go? The math competition is coming soon, and she is also very busy, okay?" Lucian became even more unhappy when he heard this. This girl still wanted to be alone with the other party. How could this be done? He immediately gritted his teeth and said, "Can't you buy him just one? Anyway, the other party stained a white shirt, so he had to pay for it. Isn't it just a white shirt?" Lu Ning just looked at him with wide eyes and said nothing. In the end, it was Lucian who was defeated first and gritted his teeth, "I know. It's just this once, it won't happen next time. You are not allowed to bring him with you on our dates from now on." Lu Ning's eyes widened a bit, "Who is dating you? What good thing does this person want?" Lucian accidentally said what was on his mind. He coughed twice in a hurry and covered it up, ahem, slip of the tongue. "I meant the activities we had arranged in advance." Lu Ning looked at him and then in Song Tingzi's direction. "I know, every time this guy saw each other, he was like a cockfighter. It would be better to avoid these two people meeting in private in the future." After entering the mall, Song Tingzi knew Lu Ning's intention, and stopped at the door of the men's clothing store and said, "I told you, that shirt can still be worn after washing, no need to pay for it." When Lucian heard this, he immediately became happy. "Look," he said, "he doesn't need it, so you just need to buy mine." After saying that, he took the lead and walked in. Lu Ning twitched the corner of her mouth and was too lazy to pay attention to the other party. Then she looked at Song Tingzi and said, "You're here, why don't you go in and take a look?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 163. Chapter 163. Parents are so enthusiastic this time. Song Tingzi finally went in together and picked out a piece of clothing, but paid for it himself. Lucian, on the other hand, gave Lu Ning a slap in the face and chose the most expensive piece of clothing in the store, which cost Lu Ning all of her living expenses this month. Fortunately, she usually doesn't have much to spend money on. Because it's that guy's birthday once a year, I don't care about him. However, she could see through the other party's little thoughts, but she just didn't want her to have enough money to buy it for Song Tingzi. As soon as the weekend was over, it was soon time for the preliminary round of the competition. However, the test center is not in the city's #1 middle school, but in the province next door. To make it easier to go to the examination room the next day, Lu Ning returned to Song's house the night before. Early the next morning, Uncle Li drove the two of them to the gate of the province. Getting off the car, I saw many students wearing other school uniforms. Among the group of people, Lu Ning actually saw Lu Xian standing lazily at the gate of the province. "Why are you here?" Lu Ning stepped forward and looked at him suspiciously. "Shouldn't he be in school at this time?" "I'm here to cheer you up." "How about it being interesting?" Lu Xian said, touching her head and saying, "Take the test well and relax. With me here, you will be fine." Does this person think he is a koi? If you don't stay in school and come here to attend classes, aren't you afraid that Lao Li will come back and cause trouble for you? Lao Su is Li Su. Since the beginning of school, the other party has regarded him as a dangerous person and has been watching him very closely. Lu Xian raised his eyebrows. "Do you really think I'm that stupid? I asked for leave from him, it was just sick leave." "Thanks, but I have to go in a minute." "You should go back to class quickly." Anyway, Lu Ning was quite touched that the other party came to cheer her up. "It's okay, I'll wait for you outside." "Come in quickly," Lu Xian said to her. Lu Ning frowned when he heard this. "The exam will take more than an hour. How about you stop waiting for me?" Lu Xian said nonchalantly, "It's okay, you don't have to worry about me. I told Lao Su that I had a stomachache and that I had to go to the hospital. It will be just in time for you to go back after finishing the exam. If he goes back now, doesn't he tell the other party clearly that he lied?" "Lu Ning, that's up to you." Fortunately, there were many parents outside who sent their students to the competition, so it was not too out of the ordinary for him to stand outside. However, among a group of parents, the fact that he, who was supposed to be in school, appeared here still inevitably attracted attention. Many parents thought he was also a student coming to the competition and asked him why he didn't go in. He opened his mouth and replied, "Oh, it's too late." Parents comforted him one after another. When Lu Ning came out, he saw some parents patting him on the shoulder and cheering him up. "Son, don't be discouraged. If it doesn't work this time, try again next time." "Lu Ning." After the parent walked away, he stepped forward and asked him, "What's going on?" Lu Xian shrugged, "It's nothing. The parents this time are too enthusiastic. I just told them that I was late, so I stayed outside the examination room, and they came to comfort me." "Lu Ning, you seem quite proud of having lied to someone," Lu Ning asked him contemptuously. Lu Xian looked innocent. "What if? You can't say that I skipped school to accompany my future girlfriend to participate in the competition, right? Then they would not comfort me, but condemn me." End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 164. Chapter 164. Okay, let me reflect. What he said seemed to make sense. "Who is your future girlfriend?" Lu Ning rolled her eyes at the other person. She found that this person was becoming more and more shameless recently. "Of course it's you, otherwise who else could it be?" Lu Xian answered gently, firmly, and confidently. "I'm too lazy to pay attention to you." There were still many parents nearby, and Lu Ning was too lazy to argue with them. "By the way, how did you do in the exam?" Lu Xian then remembered and asked. "It's not bad, I should be able to pass the preliminary round," Lu Ning said. That's good, let's go. Wait a minute, Song Tingzi hasn't come out yet. Lu Ning stopped him. It's not like he doesn't know the way. Can't we just let him go back by himself, Lu Xian said unhappily. Why do they need to bring a light bulb when they are together? We are going to take his car back to school, or are you going to take the bus yourself? There is no direct bus from the provincial middle school to the city's number 1 middle school, and it would be too troublesome to have to transfer. The other party has to go back anyway. Uncle Li just said that wait for them at the door. Since there is a ready-made car to sit in, why don't you want to drive and squeeze into the bus? Lu Xian, I think it's good to take the bus. If he was asked to take the guy's car, he would rather take the bus. Then you go and sit by yourself. Anyway, I want to take Uncle Li's car. Lu Ning was not used to his bad habits. Lu Xian stared at her face deeply and said, Sister, I noticed that you seem to be particularly fond of being angry with me recently. Is there any? When he said this, Lu Ning felt a little guilty for no reason, and couldn't help but start to reflect on herself. It seems, indeed. I don't know when she started to stop disguising herself in front of the other person, no longer swallowing her anger, and started to release her bad temper. It seems that the other person will tolerate you. This is not good. Okay, I'll reflect on it, she said. That's so good, Lu Xian was about to praise her. He then heard Lu Ning say, but you must also promise not to say anything weird again. I clearly mean what I mean, how can I say something weird? Lu Xian raised his eyebrows and disagreed. Lu Ning, just tell me whether you agree or not. Okay, I'll try my best. It is impossible not to say it at all. Doesn't love mean speaking it out boldly? Not to mention how this girl knew that he liked her. The two finally went back to school with Song Tingzi. Back to class, unfortunately, I happened to meet Li Su at the door of the classroom, who came to check the discipline. The latter's eyes fell on the two of them, his brows furrowed suspiciously, and then he looked at Lu Xian and said, Didn't you say you have a stomachache and want to take leave to go to the hospital? Yes. The doctor said that I just had a bad stomach and it was nothing serious. He sent me back without even prescribing any medicine. I thought since there was nothing wrong, I rushed back to school to attend classes. After all, the monthly exams were coming soon. I have to hurry up and listen to the class. I happened to meet classmate Lu Ning at the door, so I came in with her, Lu Xian answered very calmly. If Lu Ning hadn't come back from outside with him, he would have thought that what this guy said was true. What a coincidence. Li Su still felt that something was wrong. His eyes swept over Lu Xian and Lu Ning. Seeing that the two children had calm faces, he reluctantly dispelled his doubts, waved to them and said, Okay, you two go in quickly, it's time to go to class later. Lu Xian, who successfully escaped, winked at Lu Ning. How is it? Isn't my brother very powerful? Have you ever been handsome by your brother? Lu Ning, liar. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 165. Chapter 165. I have never seen such a shameless person. A month of intense campus life has passed by in a flash, and the long-awaited National Day holiday has arrived. But before everyone had time to be happy, they saw Li Su walking in with a stack of test papers and said, Don't just be happy, everyone, the first monthly exam will be held when you come back from the holiday. You should also review well during the holiday. Study. You are not afraid of being a master, but you are afraid of being a master during weekends and holidays. While you are having fun, others are still studying hard. You must know that the National Day holiday is your last chance to work hard. Don't think that everything will be fine once you enter the experimental class. The rule is that if your ranking in the monthly exams declines 3 times in a row, you will be withdrawn from the experimental class. I hope you can still stay in this class after 3 months. Everyone who was originally discussing with great interest where to go during the vacation felt as if someone had poured cold water on them. Lee Soo looked at the cabbages who seemed to be wilting for a moment, and said with a satisfied expression, "Okay, the squad leader will come up and distribute these sets of test papers, and everyone will use the holiday to finish them. In addition, pay attention to safety during the holiday. Wish everyone a happy holiday." Wish saw everyone's expressions of mourning after getting the papers, and then he walked out slowly. If he, the head teacher, didn't put a tight spell on them, these monkeys really thought they could turn the world upside down. Lu Ning got the test paper and was opening it when she saw Lu Xian knocking on the table and asked, "Hey, what are your plans for November? Where do you plan to go?" Lu Ning raised her eyes and glanced at him and said, "I didn't hear what the head teacher said." "The first monthly exam will be at the end of the holiday. If you fall in the exam rankings 3 times in a row, you will be kicked out of the experimental class. At this time, you don't want to review well, but are you in the mood to go out?" "Lu Xian, didn't you hear Lao Li say that vacations are reserved for top students to study? I'm not a top student, so of course I should use vacations for fun. Studying hard is not practical for him." Lu Ning. I wonder if Li Su would be so angry that his hair would stand on end if he knew that his words were understood so well. "Who said you should study hard and use your strength to slap someone in the face?" Lu Ning glanced at him sideways. "You won't forget what you said so quickly, right?" "Ahem, I didn't say I won't study. It's not just thinking about studying. You should relax when you should relax. According to research, studying for a long time can easily make you bored. We must learn to be reasonable. Allocate your own time properly and combine work with rest, so as to effectively improve learning efficiency." "Lu Ning, you are the only one with many reasons. I have never seen such a shameless person. Seriously, it's rare to have such a long vacation. Don't you want to go out for a walk? You didn't go out during the previous summer vacation, so I just took this opportunity to relax." Although the summer vacation lasted for 2 months, the two of them competed together. One of them was in a tutoring class, and they never went out to play. It would be a lie to say that you don't want to. "What are your plans?" Lu Ning asked. "How about we go camping? 3 days and 2 nights, or 2 days and 1 night is fine. Call a few of them. Let's go out and have some fun together." "What do you think?" Lu Xian suggested. Lu Ning thought about it and it was not impossible. "Then it's settled, I'll inform them and you can also call your friends, by the way." At the end, he specifically added, "except for the boy named Song." Lu Ning. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 166. Chapter 166. I'm jealous, can't I? Lu Ning glanced at him and said, "Why are you always so hostile to him? Is it because you think he is better than you?" "What did you say?" Lu Xian suddenly shouted. "How is he better than me? Does this girl want to make him angry to death?" "Lu Ning, why else are you always targeting him?" "Who targeted him? This must not be admitted, otherwise wouldn't it mean that one is jealous of the other person?" Would he be jealous of that boy? What a joke. You don't have one. Does he feel that what he has done is not obvious enough and he needs help recalling his memories?" Lu Xian saw that this girl was trying to break up with him, and his momentum suddenly weakened. "It's obvious that our auras are at odds. Probably after I finished speaking, I felt that this reason was not sufficient, so I turned to face her with an accusatory tone. You must say that I am targeting him. I do dislike that kid, but it's not because I think he is better than me. It's just pure jealousy, isn't it?" "Why are you jealous?" The other party's comment made Lu Ning confused. Tell me yourself, how many times have you two had rumors since he transferred to another school? Isn't it normal that I don't like him? Lu Xian became angrier as he talked. That's right, his possessiveness is so strong. Lu Ning. No one is telling you to like him, just that you don't always take it personally. Lu Xian, as long as you don't always bring him to me in the future, I won't bother to target him. After all, it turned out to be her fault. Before Lu Ning could express his opinion, Lu Xian said, "That's it?" Lu Ning twitched the corner of her mouth. Who made the decision with him? It was obvious that he was the only one talking to himself. The girl didn't say anything. Lu Xian just assumed that she agreed, and then opened WeChat to notify others. It quickly received a unanimous response from everyone. The person Lu Ning notified was Jian Nian. The girl was fine, but she was given a difficult problem. Ning Ning, please call my male idol too. Such a good opportunity must not be passed up. Whether the sisters can successfully get out of singles depends entirely on you. Lu Ning couldn't help but glance at Lu Xian next to her. She didn't know if someone could be single, but if this guy knew that he called Song Tingzi, he would be very angry. Thought for a while and replied, the monthly exam is coming soon, and I'm afraid the other party won't be willing to go out. That's it? What a pity, I can only wait for the next opportunity. You can feel the girl's disappointment through the screen. However, in order for everyone to have a good time during this outing, she could only be disappointed. Since he was going camping, Lu Ning did not go to Song's house, but spoke to Tang Li on the phone. Knowing that she was going out to play with her classmates, Tang Li didn't say anything. He just told her to pay attention to safety outside, and then transferred some money to her. On the first day of vacation, Lu Ning was woken up by Lu Xian's knock on the door while she was still sleeping. That guy feels like he's been on a drug lately, and he's getting up earlier every day. Lu Ning went to open the door in her pajamas. The white silk nightgown outlines her slender waist curve, and her legs are white and straight. The girl's bare feet were exposed, and her 10 toes were round and translucent, like the finest mutton fat white jade, naturally cute. This was the first time Lu Xian saw her like this, and his handsome face turned red. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 167. Chapter 167. My heart feels numb. Lu Ning, who was woken up by someone, looked very sleepy and didn't notice his abnormal reaction. She yawned and said, "Wait for me for a while. I'll wash my face and brush my teeth." Her voice sounded soft and waxy after she had just woken up. It makes people feel tingly in their hearts after hearing it. Lu Xian tried hard to control the heat on his face to avoid being embarrassed in front of this girl. Lu Ning turned around and went back to the room, and Lu Xian sat down in the living room by himself. Normally, the girl is waiting for him most of the time. It is rare to wait for the girl by myself, and it feels strange. Think of the fact that when a boy or girl goes out on a date, the girl will keep the boy waiting for a long time. Although they are not boyfriend and girlfriend yet, they will be sooner or later, so he should adapt in advance. By the time Lu Ning came out of the bathroom after washing, the heat on Lu Xian's face had almost dissipated. Because he was going to camp outside, Lu Ning specially packed simple luggage. But in Lu Xian's opinion, she still brought too many things. Watching her dragging her suitcase out of the room, she couldn't help but say, "We are only going there for 3 days, you don't need to bring too much stuff. And everything you need for camping can be rented nearby. The camping place this time is quite far away, and we have to spend the night outside. It is not too cumbersome for this girl to bring a suitcase. A backpack like his is enough. These are all the necessities I brought, and I can't reduce them any more." Since she had to stay outside, she inevitably brought more things. Although it is reduced again and again, there is still a lot. Okay. You girls are troublesome. Although Lucien said something disgusting, he still took the initiative to take the other person's suitcase. When the two of them came out of the community, they saw the statement and others were already waiting. No one was surprised to see Lucien carrying a pink suitcase in his hand. Then Lu Ning discovered that Jian Nian also had a box in his hand. The two girls looked at each other and smiled, understanding each other tacitly. Since the camping place is quite far away, a few people specially called a car. The driver was a senior driver. He dropped a few people off at their destination and left first. And they agreed to pick them up again in 2 days. This time they chose a campsite that has been relatively popular recently. Because of the National Day, there were quite a lot of people camping. Fortunately, it's summer, so you don't need to worry about keeping warm. You can just choose a place to camp. After arriving at the camp, the group walked around the area first, selected a location to camp, and then ran to rent a tent. As a result, the store told them that there were only the last 2 tents left. The nearest place to buy a tent is several kilometers away. The key is that they don't have a car. Just by walking, it takes over an hour to go back and forth. There is no other way, everyone can only decide to squeeze in. 2 tents, one for boys and one for girls. There is no problem with just 2 girls, Lu Ning and Jian Nian, but there are 4 boys, so they can barely fit in. But if 4 people lie down side by side, there won't be much space left. It's hard to even turn over at night. But the conditions are just like this. If they make a miscalculation and choose such a place, there is no other way. Although there are a few more people, the scenery is really good. Looking at the green mountains and green waters at a glance, I feel that my whole mind is much broader. Camp here at night, listen to the chirping of birds and insects in the morning, and look at the stars in the sky at night. It feels beautiful just thinking about it. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 168. Chapter 168. People are mine, and things are mine too. This is Lu Ning's first time camping, and she finds it quite new. 4 boys worked together to set up the tent, and the 2 girls were responsible for setting up the rented barbecue grill and placing the ingredients and seasonings. After doing this, Lu Ning took out a mat from the suitcase she brought and spread it on the ground. She also took out all the fruits and snacks she had brought. When the 4 boys came over to take a look after setting up the tent, they couldn't help but be surprised. "Sister Ning, are you too well prepared?" Sure enough, the girls were more attentive, and they didn't expect so much. And Lucien finally knew why her suitcase was so heavy. A group of people are enjoying the mountain breeze and having a barbecue, not to mention how comfortable it is. Lying on the grass, he closed his eyes and sighed, "I really want to live like this every day." "Stop dreaming," someone sat down next to him. Immediately after the statement, he smelled the aroma of barbecue, and he sniffed sharply and said, "It smells so good." Then he opened his eyes and saw Shen Yu holding a handful of barbecue skewers in his hand, reaching out to grab it. Was dodged by the other party, pointed to the location of the barbecue grill and said to him, "If you want to eat, go get it over there yourself." Zhang Shu couldn't lie down any longer, so he got up from the ground in a hurry. Lu Ning was flipping the skewers, and Lucien stood aside to help her pass the seasonings. She walked over and saw that the skewers that had just been sprinkled with cumin powder were blown by the wind and smelled even more fragrant. Xu Xuang suddenly swallowed his saliva and said, "Sister Ning, are you done baking? Give me 2 skewers first to satisfy my craving." Hearing this, Lu Ning handed over several skewers of the freshly grilled meat skewers on hand. Just as he was about to reach out to take them, he saw a hand moving faster than him. Lucien immediately took the skewers from Lu Ning's hand and said, "These are mine, you have to eat them and bake them yourself." Xu Xiang pointed to the barbecue on the shelf and said to him, "No, third brother, you see there are so many here, I will only eat 2 skewers. Not even one bunch. Lucien refused cruelly, then pointed to the ones beside him that he had baked before and said to him, "You can eat these, I baked." She looked at the burnt meat skewers on the side and did not dare to directly say that it was not delicious. She smiled and said, "I think the one grilled by Sister Ning looks better." Lucien raised his eyes and glanced at him. "You also know that she baked these, do you think you are worthy of eating them?" Statement. Third brother, I just want to eat 2 skewers of meat skewers grilled by Sister Ning. I'm not trying to steal Sister Ning from you, are you? Too protective. Lucien, no, the people are mine, and so are the things. Lu Ning couldn't help but her cheeks heated up. She glared at him and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Then she said to him, "Don't listen to him, these are baked for everyone, you can eat them as you like." After saying that, he grabbed a handful. The grilled meat skewers were stuffed into the statement's hand. "Thank you, Sister Ning." "Sister Ning is the best." Shangzi took it quickly and with a wink, and ran away quickly before An's face turned dark when he landed. Lu Ning looked away and met a pair of extremely resentful eyes. He looked at him with an angry and funny expression and said, "Are you a child?" Lucien snorted heavily. "Lu Ning, why do you think this guy is becoming more and more childish?" He then lowered his head, picked a skewer from the freshly grilled meat skewers, handed it to his mouth, and said softly, "Here, this is the best skewer I grilled for you to eat." Someone's expression looks better now. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 169. Chapter 169. I haven't given up yet. Lucien's expression improved a little. He lowered his head and took a bite of her hand very naturally. Lu Ning's hand holding the bamboo stick stiffened for a moment. She glared at him and said, "You don't know how to eat by yourself, why do you want me to feed you?" Lucien looked at her innocently. "Aren't you going to feed me yourself?" After saying that, he lowered his head and took another bite, not forgetting to praise her. "Well, the craftsmanship is good." Lu Ning. Does she still want to say thank you? Looking at her hands, well, her posture at the moment did seem a bit like she was going to feed him. Seeing that the guy was quite happy with his meal, he didn't say anything else. Anyway, whatever he said made sense. "Wow, it smells so good, Ning Ning, are you done baking it?" Over there, Jian Nian also ran over smelling the fragrance. He was stunned for a moment when he saw the two of them, and then an ambiguous smile appeared on his face. He winked at Lu Ning and said, "Well, you two continue, I'll wait, will come again." "No, you misunderstood." Lu Ning opened her mouth and wanted to explain, but the other party had already ran away. Lu Ning could only vent her anger on Lucien, glared at him and said, "Look, it's all your fault." After saying that, she stuffed the remaining bamboo skewers into his hand, lowered her head and continued to flip the grill. His cheeks were slightly warm. Lucien looked at her face that was slightly reddened by the charcoal fire or from shyness, and couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. He lowered his head and took a bite of the remaining skewers. "Wow, it's so delicious." Over there, Jian Nian ran over again after a while, but with an angry look on his face. "We are really enemies on a narrow road, how can we meet them everywhere?" "What's wrong?" Lu Ning looked in the direction behind the girl. Unexpectedly, she saw Yang Anning and several boys and girls in their class. Yang Anning felt the gaze over there and raised her head to look over. His eyes stayed on Lu Ning and Lucien for a moment respectively, and then quickly looked away, continuing with the matter at hand as if nothing had happened. "She is really haunted." Jian Nian frowned and glanced in the direction of Lucien. "Do you think she knew that the third brother was coming, so she followed here on purpose?" It's probably just a coincidence. Lu Ning handed her the grilled skewers on the plate and said, "Okay, let's play our own thing. As long as she doesn't mess with us, just pretend they don't exist." However, some people can't just pretend they don't exist if you want them to. After a while, Lu Ning's arm was suddenly bumped by Jian Nian next to her. Lu Ning raised his head and saw Yang Anning walking over. Jian Nian winked at her. "I know she hasn't given up on the third brother yet." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Yang Anning standing directly in front of Lu Xian and said, "I heard that you don't have enough tents. We have one extra tent that we can lend to you." Lu Xian couldn't help but look at the people around him. They all shook their heads at him to express that they were not the ones who made the statements. As for why the other party knew, they didn't know. Lu Xian immediately looked back at the other party and said, "Thank you, but no need." Yang Anning was rejected, and the smile on her face froze for a moment, but she soon smiled again and said, "Okay, if you need anything, you can come to me again." After that, he went back. Jian Nian watched the other party leave and couldn't help but curled her lips and said, "Weasel is not kind enough to send New Year greetings to Chicken." Then she told Lu Ning, "You have to watch the third brother more closely." End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 170. Chapter 170. Hug him from behind. Lu Ning glanced in Lu Xian's direction. To be honest, seeing how persistent Yang Anning was, she actually quite admired him. She should really like the person in front of her, otherwise, she wouldn't have persisted for so long. Being rejected time and time again, but still getting close again and again. If it were her, she would never be able to do this. No matter how much you like someone, you will never lose your self-esteem. "What are you thinking about?" Seeing the girl staring at him, Lu Xian couldn't help but walk towards her and asked. "Lu Ning, you really don't think about it? I think she really likes you." "What are you considering?" Lu Xian's face suddenly darkened. What does this girl mean? At any rate, Lu Ning still knew how to look at it, so she hurriedly changed her words. "No, what else do you want to eat? Can I bake it for you?" "Ha," Lu Xian looked at her and snorted with a smile on his face. Lu Ning couldn't help but touch her nose. Who is she doing this for? Isn't she afraid that he will regret it in the future? However, seeing that the girl surrendered on her own initiative, Lu Xian did not continue to hold on to her. "If you really care about this girl, you will make yourself angry to death." In the afternoon, everyone went to collect some firewood nearby and played cards for a while. Soon it was night, and piles of bonfires began to light up in the camp. Lu Ning and Jian Nian went to the tent to stay for a while. When they came out, they found that those guys were gone. "Hey, where are they?" The two looked around and saw no sign of them, so they couldn't help but look at each other. On the other side, in the woods not far from the camp, Lu Xian and a few people were doing something mysterious and didn't know what they were doing. After a while, they saw Zhu Shu and the others coming out of the woods. The only missing figure was Lu Xian. On a small not far away, Song Anning looked at the direction the three of them were leaving, then looked at the forest behind them, then took steps and walked into the forest. On the other side, Shu Shu trotted towards Lu Ning. When he arrived, he said to her mysteriously, "Sister Ning, third brother is waiting for you in the woods over there. He said he has a surprise for you." "What's that guy doing?" Lu Ning glanced in Lin Zi's direction with a suspicious expression. Stated he and said with a smile, "Sister Ning, you will find out when you go there. I promise, you will like it." Lu Ning became more and more suspicious. "Got it," she said. Then he took steps and walked towards the direction of the forest. She wanted to see what that guy was up to. On the other side, Lu Xian was standing with his back to the entrance of the forest, and suddenly heard soft footsteps coming from behind him. Just as Lu Xian was about to turn around, A pair of hands suddenly hugged him from behind. Lucien couldn't help but stiffen, and then the corners of his mouth raised, with a bit of joy on his face. I didn't expect this girl to be so proactive. She must have liked him a long time ago. She never said it before, because she didn't find a suitable opportunity. Just as he was about to turn around, he heard footsteps coming from the entrance of the forest again. Lucien was not afraid of being hit by others. He wished that everyone knew that this girl liked him, but he was worried that the girl would be shy, so he subconsciously wanted to turn around and protect the girl in his arms. However, before he could see clearly the person behind him, he first saw clearly the figure at the entrance of the forest. In an instant, the whole person was stunned. End of this chapter.